Vince, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited for you to share your amazing story of recovering from stage 4 kidney cancer and for you to share the work that you're doing. So thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Bailey. It's a pleasure to be here. It's always good talking to you.
Always great talking to you too, Vince. So why don't you share with everyone how you found out that you had cancer?
Mine was a situation where it started to progress. I was kind of having some hardship in life, and the stress level was rather high, and I felt like there was a lot of things that went on going up to finding out I had cancer. So I wasn't surprised based on what had happened in my life and where I was with my level of stress. I would go for about a period of a year of experiencing what they call night sweats. And it wasn't every night. So it wasn't like something like I felt like I needed to address. It was occasional, and it lasted for about a 10-month window. And as that progressed, I began to have different episodes where I would lose control of my balance. I would fall, or I had a couple incidents where I actually blacked out and, would come back to. And I would finally have one of those episodes on the way to see the doctor. And then I would ultimately be in the emergency room and find out that those night sweats was cancer metastasizing in my body. And that initial scan was what they call local. So it was only my lower abdomen where I said I had the most pain was where they scanned me. And they were looking at a 12-pound tumor that encapsulated my left kidney. So they knew I had cancer, and they knew I was in pretty bad shape. At that point also, when I would find out, I had probably through those night sweats over that period of 10 months lost about 83 pounds.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'd never experienced fatigue before. So the whole situation, I'd seen my PCP doctor up to the point of finding out I had the cancer about a half a dozen times, from like say February to July. Because it's something, I mean, we were doing all kinds of tests, and the only thing we hadn't done was a CT scan. And that's what they did when I went in the emergency room. So it was emphatic. But at that point, cancer kind of doesn't reveal itself until it's in the stages that are, a nightmare type scenario. And in this case, that's what had happened. It had actually, when I did get for a full scan over to UCLA Wilshire, because I would have to transfer hospitals, the first one didn't have the capabilities of managing my case. So I went to a bigger hospital where I would get full body scans, head to toe, and different types. So I'd have like a bone scan, a CT scan, an MRI, x-rays. So they would realize that the tumor clotted and went up my vena cava, and I'd have about 80% blockage on the left ventricle of my heart. So at this point, they were they were kind of mad that I didn't come in earlier. But as I said, it wasn't something that was daily. It was in and out of windows. And it was like, as the time went on, the episode of the blackout or getting dizzy or whatever became worse. I mean, I ended up in the emergency room ultimately, but they were separated far enough that I still felt like I was going to be able to, get my health back and I would be on my way again. I didn't think that, that was cancer knocking at the door. That really never crossed my mind till he would tell me that.
Mm-hmm. And you said that you had been experiencing a difficult time. How long did that difficulty or a difficult time last leading up to your cancer diagnosis?
I would say probably about 4.5 years.
Okay.
I had a business that was doing 5 digits a month, and I was enjoying that, and that business and that marriage and things fell apart, and I was really trying to pull my life back together, and it just kind of like a house of cards It just, when one thing went, the whole thing went. And it was, you have those moments in life where you think it to yourself, how low can you go? And how low I went was to, being in a bed with cancer, and on a 30-day window of life expectancy. I mean, that the idea that you do, it sounds kind of cliche. It's like, what would you do if you only knew you had 30 days left to live? And then the way that they had described what was going on, they're like, you're here in the bed, you might not wake up tomorrow, because the clotting and the rate of the metastasizing of that tumor up around your heart, it might just stop your heart from beating, or your lungs could fill with blood. So it's like, we don't know how much time we have for you. So the level of urgency was huge. And, the idea of what they were about to perform, this gentleman, Dr. Chamey, he had to go and recruit a team of doctors. So they had estimated it, and it would play out to 12-hour operation, but there was 4 oncologists for the cancer and the removal of my kidney, and 4 cardiologists they had my heart out of my chest for 1 hour and 25 minutes. Oh. So and then the craziness of all of this is 8 sets of hands, 3 anesthesiologists, but to have what they call a cut and suck procedure, where they're vacuuming the cancer and they're scraping it off the organ. And so in a cut and suck procedure, as they would call it, there's no room for any air. If any time that cancer should burst, I'm dead. I'm not going to live 30 days past that, because it's going to spread through my whole body. And as it would turn out, we couldn't do a triple operation because there was cancer upon surviving this operation, which was absolutely miraculous in so many ways, that I still had the fight was still going on. The cancer is still in my body, except it was in my lungs. So that would be round 2. So we knew we were going to have to address that, or maybe a calendar year window. As this cancer grew, you might have 10, 13 months, something like that. And I would go all the way up to that again. It's a little different mentally the second year, because you knew you had cancer and you knew that it was metastasizing. So mentally, I went in a lot of different places. I was really having a hard time identifying that I had cancer. For whatever reason, something inside of me just kept saying, I'm not the guy that gets cancer. I mean, and here I almost die from it. I have a 12-hour operation. I'm still saying in my head, well, I'm not the guy that gets cancer. I'm like that convinced. Like in a normal seats, they're going to get like, what's wrong with that guy? But I mean, I still felt that way. I've been going through the whole process. But anyhow, I think a large portion of that actually helped my healing, because that self-talk was a positive direction from my subconscious, and my God, to see that I was still in the fight. And I really just kind of let it go at that. I didn't give it any more thinking than that. But my body, the second time around, it was more painful. Believe it or not, the night sweats were pretty bad, but I had lost, like, I don't know what type of nerve damage it was doing, but I was losing like a lot of dexterity. So you were like, the things that were habitually easy to do were now difficult. So it was like, I felt like I was aging real fast, if that makes sense. Like I was constantly feeling like I was stiff. My range of motion, my ability to sit up and get down, it was all just like, I felt like I was just sluggish. And that picked up. So the savior in round 2 was the immunology drug on Christmas Eve in 2015, a calendar year later. And I wind up in the ICU for 4 days after taking the drug. And they come in and tell me that the drug was successful. I had a positive reaction. And I mean, at that point, I had grown to knowing that I was about 83 pounds lighter again, and I was on death's doorstep again, and it had gone through different areas of my body. So no operation was going to save me in round 2. it would have to be the medication would have to work. And as designed, it did. I mean, it was my immune system that failed me, and my body would contract cancer, would now be strong enough to heal me as intended. And it worked exactly like that. But I really believe that the focus that I had on the Holy Spirit in me, and the trust that I had in believing that his best for me would be what would play out, whether I would live or die. I was confident that either way. And here I am to talk to you today. So I don't think that the people at UPMC could totally describe what has happened. They've never given me a remission status. I'll go for a scan here in August, and this will be my last one for a period of 3 years. But I've just been on the complete ascension of getting better and better and better. So that dexterity and mobility is beginning to come back. I mean, I'm 8 years removed, or will be in November. So 7.5 years removed the operation, and I'm still experiencing what went on in that operation in the rest of my body, and in the remnants of the cancer beating me up.
When did you first have a clear scan? Because you said it had spread, or actually first, where did it spread besides your heart?
Well, when it was in my lung, so I come back, there was some difficulty going from the California system. So when I got to Pennsylvania, they led me to believe that I would be able to get covered with the pre-existing condition right away. And nothing happened for 90 days. And that was dangerous, because the cancer that was in my right lung, once I would get an initial scan again here in Pittsburgh, like the full body, the routine that I had back in Los Angeles was repeated basically. And they would see that it was in my lung, but it was also in my other lung. And it looked like it had potential to begin to spread more, and it did. So in that 90-day window, I had no coverage or any medication. We were like kind of back on track for metastasizing again. As fast as the next 4 months, I get it in 7 ribs, I get in my collarbone. So I'm on my hard tissue, along with the soft tissue in the lungs. It goes in my left femur. It goes on 3 vertebrae in my spine. It goes to the right lung, so now it's in both lungs. It made it to my liver. So pretty much it had spread both hard and soft tissue up to my lymph nodes. It didn't get that far, but it had it. I don't know that I would have survived. But so I believe in my faith, in the trust in God, and the timing of this medicine. It's beyond a single miracle to me. I feel like at that point I can't wrap my brain around all of the healing that had to occur for me to begin to have a life back. And so it's like, your God is so, like, you're so fortunate in so many ways that you just have no idea. It's so beyond your understanding. But it's the beauty and the experience of having that trust and allowing it to become real. You know, that which is unseen is real now. And I mean, life is so much better in so many ways. I'm grateful to have had that happen to me.
That's amazing. Vince, can you talk about your diet, what it was like leading up to your cancer diagnosis, and then, because I know it was part of your healing process?
Yeah, I was pretty much, with what the job situation had turned out with on my job side of life, I really was like in the fast food type thing. I was more eating what I could afford instead of eating what I needed to eat. So it played in where the processed food definitely, along with the stress that I was incurring, it was a contributing factor. It was so funny because when I began the healing part, when I realized I was going to make it, I was like, oh my, I have to learn so much stuff about food, and I have to learn about the type of cancer I have and which foods are, work best against it. So it was like the learning curve was on, and I would so upset to find out how much food in our regular shopping stores, or like 80% of what's in there is not any good for you. And then when you find out this idea of fake ingredients is permitted since, I don't know, like the 70s or late 60s, and then you begin to realize that stuff like cancer and heart disease and diabetes and these other things are now prominent in America. And it's like, and why is that? So, they're not doing us any favor with what they're giving us on a daily dose. And then when you have a situation of high level of stress on your personal life, and then you're taking that type of food, it's almost inevitable your body's going to break down. And so my diet was atrocious. I mean, I was like eating pizza and burgers and dogs and tacos, and it was nothing of which that was like a home cooked meal where it was a healthy, balanced diet, where that's where I rest now. I mean, I think that's probably the biggest difference for me is what life's like without those levels of stress, and how you can heal and move forward when that environment's all appropriate.
Yeah. So diet was part of your healing process, your mindset, you believed you could get better, right?
Yes. I went to great lengths. I had found out that I had 2 root canals, and unbeknownst to me, that if you have a root canal tooth, it's considered a dead tooth. And what that can do is leach poison into your blood. And I had already had a contaminated bloodstream with the cancer. So I went into a purist type mindset, because I was juicing in the beginning of the healing process, but I had 3 teeth removed that I had root canals in. And it was like, the whole idea was I wanted to make myself, I got rid of any fragrance deodorant, fragrance soap, fragrance or flavored toothpaste. So I went all no fluoride, any of this type of stuff that was harmful to my system. I was like, if it was in there before, it's not going to go in there again. So incorporating the diet and the mindset of those smaller things, so those things that are in your habitual life, you're not given a second thought to. Like, I don't do fabric softener, and I don't do laundry detergent that has fragrance in it either, because those ingredients all go on your skin. Your skin's like a sponge, and you'll ingest those things. Then when you start adding stress into that, poor diet into that, lack of sleep, it's like, well, you got a recipe for cancer or something there like. So those things become obvious.
That's great. And what resources did you learn these things from, or how did you realize?
I was fortunate. I had a cancer group here in the local church, where the one lady was a former nurse, and she had cultivated a library of information for people who had cancer and family members, caregivers. And she was a huge resource, of which I got to go in there, and I had literally like an encyclopedia of content to look at. So it was like, I had peace of mind that I would find what would match my situation. But initially, there's so much information. It's like, how am I going to cut through all of this? And it was like, once you get your match with what your illness was, it was pretty straightforward. And then I just started to apply it. I did in the beginning, I was like, I don't really care if this tastes good or not. I'm going to eat it, because I'm going to make the food my medicine. And I was like, I'll have the mindset that I'll learn to acquire a taste for this. So it was like, it was kind of funny. I had talked myself into enjoying it. And then actually, as my body would get used to it, your body would crave it. So it's like, I was completely now on the other side of the stress and the poor diet. So it's like, I was pulling myself out of in a lot of different ways by just being focused to just try to get better in each area. And the time would go by fast enough that all the areas would get better.
That's awesome. That's so great. Um, and can you talk a little bit more about your stress and how that changed, or how you were able to manage it better?
I think what's kind of interesting is I went to Los Angeles for the wrong reasons, in that I was seeking money. I was looking for what was going to make me wealthy. And I did that through the apparel business, and I was pretty good at it, but it wouldn't be my fate, and being a spiritual person my whole life. I was raised Catholic, and my mother, she's a twin sister. Her sister was open Christianity, so we were exposed to both religions in our youth. So God was always something simple for me. He was just like somebody I'd have a talk with. It wasn't all sophisticated with a lot of church rules and things of this nature. So I was able to tap in on that a lot easier for me. But I didn't really feel like, prior to this being sick, I was really in alignment with it being on the other side of the sick and the healing. We can kind of like lie to ourselves, or we cannot allow ourselves to see the truth, and so in the process you find your true identity on the other side. And it was like, I'm not actually somebody who's money hungry, even though that's what I was doing. And that wasn't God's will for me. And when you line up with God's will for you, it's life changes. It's just different.
Wonderful. Were there any particular spiritual practices or ways that you figured out that those things are not for you?
I didn't want to have any judgment toward it. I felt like if it was something that was intended to be positive, if that was the method of which those people did it, it was okay with me. I would look at myself as being chameleon like that way. I didn't have judgment if it wasn't the way that I learned, but I felt like it was more of an energy thing. If it was the same energy I felt, if it would, even though it would be different words, it was still of God. All things were of God. So it was like, just to let him speak to you another way. It wasn't any different. It all felt the same grace. You felt all the goodness. So
Through prayer, would you say prayer?
I did a lot of journaling. It was good for me to write down and measure where I was and how far I've come. I was pretty beat up physically, learning how to walk again and learn how to feed myself. So and extremely humbling, having been someone who is athletic and used to having my mobility, to have no mobility was, I was in a wheelchair. I was pretty depressed about that. I didn't really want that to last too long. So I was very eager to try to get on my feet again, and I went to a walker right away. And so that was the beginning of the progression. When I got out of the walker, I was, off and walking again. To the day I get up and walk 1.5 miles a day every day. And it's like, I'm grateful to wake up and I'm grateful to be vertical. So I'm going to go appreciate those two things first. So
that's awesome. Vince, was Bible reading or a church and part of your?
Yes. I went back. I got involved in being the ministry for the middle school kids. So I had 12-year-old boys and catechism at the Catholic Church. And then I was involved with other stuff there where they were doing videos to promote the church and part of their cancer ministry as well. So the cancer ministry was very difficult because a lot of these people were, and they were in much worse condition than I was. I don't, but you would see um, you would see people that, unlike myself, they didn't have the same mindset of that they could get over it. They were scared, and you could tell that they were going to be overcome by it. And they didn't have the ability to really, you know, fight back. And it's kind of interesting on that front. Like, fight back might be you're under a drug at which makes you not hungry, and you're underweight, 80 pounds, and you need to eat. And when you smell that food, you feel like you want to throw up. And it's like, you need to fight to get that food down. And those are the kind of battles you go through when you have cancer and things of the sort. So it's like, for me, the part that was even more torturous, I was hungry too. I was hungry, but the whole wall of being nauseous and that was going to come up out of my belly, like, it was just terrible. It was terrible. And that was the length of the time in which I was on those types of drugs. And it was like, once I wasn't on them anymore, I didn't deal with that. But I mean, probably 8 months. And it's really hard.
Were there any tips or tricks that you found that helped you deal with the side effects from the treatment?
The sleep was what helped a lot, and drinking water helped a lot. And I would try to learn how to do stretching or yoga like poses where you just kind of focus on your breathing and hold a position. It was really important to me to get my mobility back. So that kind of stuff I could do, and it wasn't like out of the question of what I could or couldn't do. I could do it, and I could see myself and my strength getting better. And it was encouraging, because like I said, I was in a wheelchair. I'm coming from square one. I had to learn how to walk again. So like, the ability to touch my toes sitting on the ground was a big deal. And it sounds crazy. You're not going to give it two thoughts, but it really was a big deal. It was a big deal to get out of that wheelchair. So, but you take the little wins day by day. I really felt confident that just because I had made it through the operation, then again, that the medicine that I was taking was working. I was very confident I was going to stick around. It wasn't, because it was a momentum thing with my body. I felt when I was getting sick, I just kept getting sicker and sicker and sicker. Whereas this, I'm like, I'm getting better and better and better now. And I can feel it. I can tell my body that the morning walks and drinking more water and just the simple things that have become habitual are definitely paying off 3, 4, 5 years later now, for sure.
That's great. Going back to the immunotherapy treatments, how did your doctors determine which one was appropriate for you? Was there testing done on your tumor?
They had a biopsy on my tumor, and they knew when they took the biopsy that the drug that would be available for my condition wasn't in the market yet. So it would be really the legality of 2015 waiting for that drug that, as I mentioned earlier, I took on Christmas Eve. So I did. I mean, I held on long enough for that drug to make it into market. So I was one of 17 people at UPMC that took that drug as soon as it showed up. And as far as I know, I was the only one that's the only drug I took and healed from it. Like, a lot of those people didn't make it. A lot of those people were on a second or even a third drug along with that drug, and they're still on it 7 years later. It's like, I'm removed from that for 3 years now, 3.5 years from actually taking the medication. So, I mean,
do you know if they did any of the other things like your stress management, sleep, the nutrition, exercise? Do you know if they did that?
Yeah, I work with a dietitian over there. It felt like it was a little bit more traditional, because like another thing that I did is I got off of dairy. So like besides ripping my teeth out and no fragrances, it's like, well, I'm not going to have any dairy because I didn't want the idea of putting more bacteria in my body and the cancer would feed off of that. I just didn't feel like it was a good idea. It was like, and then one of my friends said it to me. He goes, "It's okay. It's like drinking pus anyway." And I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I've ever had another glass of milk again my whole life. It was like, I've never heard it. So it was like, that steered me away from entire. Actually, sometimes I have a hard time eating cheese thinking about that. And I don't even, is that true? I mean, that's terrible. But anyhow, so I cut out the dairy. And so these little chips and with the teeth and the fragrance and all of this, no deodorant in the soap or the no fluoride in the toothpaste, it really does. It makes a big difference. So now I'm then progressing to the next level of juicing. I'm finding out like what beet juice does and what celery juice does, and then mixing different cocktails of juicing. And then different juicing between juicing fruit and juicing vegetables, and you're primarily just vegetables. And now then I'm into the diet where it's like we're talking macronutrients and micronutrients, and I'm like, I was just a vitamins and minerals guy a while ago. So but it's the in learning, I mean, and then you come across other people who are complete purists, like somebody like Chris beats cancer, and you know him. So it's like the level of discipline in which he had is just admirable for me, because I would go down that road and I couldn't go. It was so difficult to maintain, but it was also, I had begun to experience a recovery. So the discipline, I didn't need to have the discipline so much on the diet because the medication, the immunology was working. What I was focusing on was getting a lot of sleep, getting my walk, and drinking a lot of water, and that was like just as simple as I could keep it. But I learned so much more about diet, and just it's a tragedy what's going on in America with our food. It's like we're feeding these people garbage, and the results that they're getting on the other side of the modern day illnesses and the diseases, it's because of the food. The food is terrible. It's a terrible quality, and it doesn't have to be, is what's disturbing. So
yeah, it's either fuel or poison for our bodies.
Oh, for sure.
Did you take supplements during your healing protocol? Healing process?
I had an opportunity. I didn't take supplements during the treatment. After I had the treatment, I had come across a gentleman, which he claimed you do a DNA swab, and they take your DNA, and they claim that they can give you a vitamin that can detox your DNA, but that it is made specifically for you off your DNA. That's how they claim they can do it. So I was like, you know what? It's like kind of one of those cryotherapies where it's like you got to go in. It's like, I'm a believer that icing things down helps the beginning of the healing process. So why wouldn't freezing gases that ice your body down work the same way? So I would be willing to try. So I did this with the vitamins. I tried it. I would say after 90 days, and that's all the longer I did it, after the first 30 days, I began to feel really, really good. Real good. And then what had come of it was I had about another 10-day platform where that kept going up, and then it just stayed there. So the next 60 days and the next 90 days. So it was like, I couldn't tell if I was staying there or if that was the new level of health I had experienced, or if it was those pills. So they were rather expensive. So I went off of them. And what came of it is I actually maintained where I was. So my thought was that it actually did detox me, because I didn't have that fog or that tiredness moving forward. That was gone. But I'd also still now had incorporated a new health habits with my sleep and my diet and my exercise. So I think all things attributed to just me staying at that plateau.
Oh. That's great. So it was genetically tailored nutrients or vitamins.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. They were it was like all natural ingredients, stuff like ashwagandha and things like that. I can't pronounce real good, but there was probably, in mine, the way mine came out, there was probably 26 different ingredients for my blood type and my DNA. And I actually had a pretty clean bill of health before I started it. So when I was done, I was definitely cleaner according to their scale. And so, and I had felt it, like I said, but I'd plateaued. So I was kind of like, well, in that I thought that previous detoxes that I had done in other areas of my body sort of worked the same way too. So it was like, I felt better. I didn't like going back to sluggish right away, but it was like, that's why I did it. I didn't want to feel that way anymore. So I would say it worked.
What was the name of it? Do you remember?
Euphoria.
Euphoria. Okay.
It was, I believe, in MLM. Euphoria. It was, they have, so you go in there and if you don't have an agent that they talk to because you found them off the internet, they'll put somebody in front of you and then they'll describe to you what the process is. And they'll either send you something in the mail or they'll have somebody local meet up with you. And you just basically swab your nose and then they're good to go. And they come back with the stuff. It's $180 a month.
Okay.
So it's not, yeah. For a detox, like I said, I took it for 90 days. To me, that, and I felt plenty good with it.
Cool.
But I did. It took about 10 days in, I started to feel really good. I was like, this is pretty good stuff. Because the windows of the day where I was tired before I wasn't, also during those times where I'm on the internet a lot and I do a lot of reading, I was able to stay a bit more focused. So it was like I feel like a performance type of enhancement kind of feeling to it. It wasn't like I went like completely crazy, but I definitely experienced better focus and better rest.
Okay, that's great. You mentioned there were other detoxes that you did.
Yeah, I did. I had the detox where I was going to work on my health before I was 50 for the big proctologist exams. So I did colon cleanses along the way. And rather interesting because mood shifts there when you're cleaning out your bowels. So like a lot of mood swings, a lot of energy swing, but probably the best feeling when it is done is the level of energy that you have. It's like, yeah, it's like I actually, this is something I got away from. I should do again. I do psyllium husk regularly. So I get about 35 grams of fiber in me a day, but I do it before I go to bed. And what it does is I'm completely regular, but I'm also, when I wake up, my stomach is balanced. Like my acidic, so whatever I'm going to put on my stomach to start the day is crucial. So I like something like an avocado or something that's like healthy fats or things of that nature, or something with protein driven, because I'm going to go be active right away. So, but it's like these things have become habits. Now I wake up and I'm going through these routines. I'm not even thinking about them now 5 years later. And it was really important to me to create that core lifestyle moving forward, because like nobody wants to be sick. And the older you get, it's just more difficult because your body wants to stiffen up anyhow. So, you know, you don't need as many calories. You do need more sleep. So you get your sleep, drink your water, and eat smart. But, you know, go be active. And active when you're older, it might just be being vertical or just taking a walk. I mean, really, it's like, you know, you got legs to walk, not legs to sit. So go use them. And it plays to your benefit.
That's awesome. What kind of colon cleanses did you do? Did you go to a colonics?
Actually, mine was beverage. So I would drink like a tea and then I had capsules. I don't recall
Okay.
the name of it, but it was like a green tea cleanse. I do remember that part. And this stuff, it wasn't horrible or anything like that. It was like your body just, you're in the bathroom a lot. And it's like, but like I said, your energy level was fantastic. It was really, I did it about 3 times. Like from the time I was 35 to 50, I'd probably done it 4 times.
Oh. Speaking of age, how old were you when you were diagnosed?
51.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, it flies by. 59, on the cusp of 60. So it's like, I'm holding on. It's like that part of it, it's just a number. When you realize how to maintain your health and have a nice, clean, soft spirit and just allow God to just pour his grace on you, it's like, it's hard to not smile. It's hard to not feel good. Just sitting around and being grateful for all of what's going on in my life and how it's playing out. Like I'm getting the opportunity to be myself on a podcast and share the good news of other people surviving like me. And, I get to talk to people like you. I get to share, with other people that you can have hope. Like I wasn't one to remember scripture, but the one that struck the deepest to me is when you are at your weakest, I'm at my strongest. And for me, it couldn't have been more clear because I was able to be clear in my decision to let go, to let God do his work. And it was because of that mindset. I had nothing left to give. So what I did have to give, I gave it to God.
And God worked through you.
Yep.
Wow.
It's awesome.
It is awesome.
Vince, I am so grateful for being invited to hear your story. I would like to share your story with all of my patients with CureNav, and they definitely come to us because they're looking for hope. And I think that your story will help them a lot with anxiety and keeping focused on nutrition. And like you said, finding that outlet, a way to have more energy, because a lot of them are confused about nutrition and they do not know where the energy is going to come from. So I'm grateful for your story today.
You're welcome. I'm glad I got to share.
Wow. So powerful, your story, Vince, in many ways.
Yeah, it's there's so much that went on in such a short window, and how like sometimes moments just get micro, like they get real granular, like you go way in, and the whole point is it almost felt like the deeper in you would get, or where I was most comfortable with being in God's presence, realizing that that's where he was speaking the loudest. And I preferred to be there. That's where I felt I was weak, but I felt strong at the same time. It was most comforting, and it sounded like I was further on the edge, but I felt like I was closer to being comforted. It was just something like a feeling that would come over me. So I really thank God for that. I mean, my mind could have went in so many other places, but to go there as quickly as it would happen, and to find that level of peace that quickly, there was really no other place I wanted to be. And the healing, I believe, happened a lot quicker when that connection, almost like a joining of my will with God's will.
Wow. It's obviously had a tremendous impact on you emotionally. I love that you said earlier how you wouldn't have wanted it any other way, that, you're grateful for what you have now because of what you went through. And that's really, really hard when we're in it, in the most difficult process. But also, like you said, you had the mindset that it was temporary and you were going to get through it, and just to rest in the comfort of God, in his presence. It's so impactful and powerful. So thank you for sharing that.
I wanted to find out more about like organic products, like when someone makes a lotion that is from goat's milk that has a fragrance to it, but they claim it's organic. That's something that I use on the daily, just for my forehead. I need to drink more water, that kind of thing. Vince, did you notice a difference in even your skin when you drank more water? And do you use some type of lotion?
I do alkaline water. I was introduced to that out in California, and I didn't want to do the electronic one because there's like a Kagan filter which does the water, and you can do the alkaline water through a natural process. So my understanding was to build from my bones first. So I drink collagen every day, and I have that in like a beverage, either tea or coffee. And I drink coffee black, no dairy if I have a coffee. But then the alkaline water is at about a level 9 alkalinity with the collagen, and it going from the bone marrow out. So if I make my bone marrow strong with the collagen, then I got a strong core, then I can build my health and my healing around it. My lotion is coconut oil. I use coconut oil all over my body. I put it in my hair. I put it in my drinks. So I drink it, I wear it, I have that's my lotion of choice, just straight coconut oil.
I have done that before for my skin, and I think I'll definitely go back to it. Thank you for that.
The other is to answer your part about the organic food, you definitely feel the difference in that too. I noticed it more when I was juicing. Like when you juice organic vegetables versus just store-bought vegetables, there's a big difference. And it's probably more what it's grown in than the pesticide on top of that. So it's like, to me, the regular grocers was like the produce was doubly contaminated, how it was grown, and then how they grew it, and then the dirt which they grew it in. Whereas the organic, it's all natural compost, and then there's no chemicals on it. So it was emphatically a different feeling. Kind of like, I would say, a difference between like a roasted piece of chicken and a fried piece of chicken. How does your belly feel after you eat those? And that would be the difference with the organic food versus the processed or the store manufactured food.
The conventional foods.
Yeah.
Right.
The food thing really is placed, like, moving forward, I would be more than happy to be a part of a group of people that is advocating a better quality food to the general public as a whole. And this idea of fake ingredients and this kind of stuff has to be absolved, because it's like you're killing people. It's like you're giving them food and you're telling them it's food. There's zero nutritional value in it. It's a negative response your body has to these things are going to cause problems. It's like they don't care. It's the company's too big, too massive, a monopoly of which shouldn't exist, and it's controlling the health of your country because it's about capitalism or other reasons. And it's like, it's enough is enough. It's like, give the people what they deserve, and also what their land can provide. So it's very bothersome to me. People just deserve to eat clean food.
I would love, well, I've actually gone to Vince's podcast website, so I will be sharing that with CureNav patients as well. Do you have resources, Vince, that you may have been able to utilize when you were going through everything for, insurance for people that don't have the best insurance, or were you a part of a clinical trial, so you were picked for that clinical trial? I'm always interested in resources so I can give the information to patients.
I don't have anything. I have a library resource for you, but that would be it. The clinical trial I actually avoided. They wanted me to stay in Los Angeles because it was still my lung. And it was the issue of my family was in Pittsburgh, and I had my best chance at having that love and that support. And the community in which I was from, my dad was the high school principal. So, and it was a small school district. There was only like 600 kids in the whole school. So I had a whole community besides my immediate family when I went back to Pittsburgh that rallied around me. And my belief that when these people would pray out loud, that God doesn't let any prayer go unheard. So it served out as an army of angels in putting the law of God's will in action. And it's like, there's no way I can die. There's too many people that are praying for me in this manner that I'm going to survive. So it just reinforced that thought that I'm not the guy that gets cancer, that I'm definitely going to be the guy that heals from this. And that was because of the people and the environment around me. Very blessed. That's just good fortune. There was none of that I could have orchestrated. That was just a blessing.
That is awesome. It is so inspiring because my mother passed away of pancreas. It was in her pancreas, and I always wonder, had I known more at the time that she was going through everything. I do question, what was the faith in our family? What did we know about diet? What did we know about anything? And I mean, knowledge is power. And so you are doing a great thing when you are spreading, the word with your podcast, and Bailey is as well, because there are so many people that have no idea where to start.
Yeah, I can agree with that. You kind of, you feel like you're lost, like almost like a rudderless boat. It's like you have no sense of direction, and your priority has to be about the cancer and getting better. You really want to place your mind in the right spot, but also, like, I guess for mine, with the idea of being weak, was when I realized God was strong. It served me. It strengthened me in so many ways, because it was like, this is too heavy for me. I can't lift this anymore. When we surrender to spirit, it's probably the most powerful act we can do of trust. And I wouldn't know that until I did that. And look at the response. And to me, I didn't see it so much as something courageous, as much as I thought it was something that I needed to do. It's like, you have to do this, is where I was at in my mind with that.
Well, you're going to inspire many, so thank you.
Absolutely. Marisol, do you have anything you'd like to share or ask Vince?
My gosh, Um, I'll have to re-listen because so much wisdom in your story, Vince. What you just said is so deep. I don't know. Well, one thing that I want to say is that you don't look like your age. You look way younger. You don't even have grace.
Oh, they're coming in. They're coming in.
I think that you have so much to share with people. You are a example of surrounding and all the components. I was listening. It has everything. It has community. It has the way you talk to yourself, your mind, the way you took care of your body, the give everything to spirit, and the joy and the cultivation of gratitude. I mean, as you were talking, I was drawing like a flower, like a base to what was the foundation for how you came up from that time. And it's like your story completes all of the parts.
Wow.
So I'm really humbled to be a witness of what you just shared, and I appreciate you sharing this with us. And what could be a better way to share that than a podcast? So I'd like to know more about that.
Okay. I'm going to end up teaching people how to do podcasts. I can tell. It's just the experience that I'm being given. And it's like, I'm still old school that way. I need to learn it first to fill the expert position, as they would call it. And this process has happened rather quickly. We have 50 episodes and it'll be 2 years in July. And it's like, we're not having a problem finding guests anymore. You know, it's like people, and it's like, it's twofold, because I want to find the stories. And if people reach out that have a story, it makes it easier for both of us. So that's something that we're working on, putting on the website, that if you have a story, fill out this questionnaire and we'll get back to you. So yeah, I'd be more than happy to share anything with a podcast with you, how to make your own, or you know, what we do and so forth.
Thank you.
I have some people I want to send your way, so you can interview them as well.
Okay.
Hope you don't mind.
No, yeah, Debbie's the one that handles the schedule, so you have her information. So just, yeah, give her a holler.
Okay, sounds great.
Yeah, we're working on, and actually one of the companies I was working on was a food company, and they're out of Australia, and they teach you how to grow your own food. So awesome. They're doing really well. They're kind of growing a lot. So I don't know if anything's going to happen this year, but maybe the beginning of next year, we can get them on as a sponsor. Actually, they're cancer survivors as well. I wanted to share their story too. But I would really like to talk about food on my podcast more. I really would. It's you know, we need to make people aware, and we're just so consumed with our daily lives and our current culture. We're not thinking about what we're putting in our mouth. We're just putting it in our mouth and getting to the next thing, and we're just destroying ourselves. And it's like, we need to be more mindful of our food, just period.
It's so true. It makes such a big difference. Vince, is there anything else you think cancer, people with cancer or who are survivors, looking to prevent recurrence that they need to know?
I think take a strong note of where you were when you got the cancer, because I think that's the biggest difference for myself. That would be that those stresses and those thoughts that I had prior to becoming sick don't exist. I mean, I feel like I'm new, only better. And the only better is because of the experience of the whole thing. And it's just, life teaches. And this was a grand opportunity to learn. And you know, it's like, it's just, life is so much fuller. I said it by accident to a friend of mine. He said, "So what's it like?" And I go, "Well, the best way I could describe it is life was 3D, and now it's 4K. You know, it's just, there's so much more going on because my level of awareness is so much greater. And when you become more aware, you're in the present moment, and that's where God rests. So it's like, you feel like some sort of, like you were given the answers to the test. It was like, oh, it was really this easy the whole time. Why did I have to go through that to get to here? And that's how our creator works, you know? If he doesn't have these tools to teach us, how do we ever learn? But you just have to keep reaching towards him. Where I always get intrigued by the statement, is life is, the world is your teacher. And it's like, that's pretty interesting statement, and you can take that a lot of different ways. But if you're seeing it through the lens of how God wants to show you it, it's completely clear. It's completely clear. You become more in touch with your intuitive, your inner voice in the conversation of God gets stronger. Your sense of direction, like what you didn't know before, instinctively you know exactly what to do. It's like, how did those things happen? Well, you've gotten out of the way. Your level of connection with your creator is kicking. Like, now you got a good one going, you know, go enjoy it.
I just shared in the chat a quote that it hit me a couple of weeks ago, and everything you said confirms that. And it says, God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world. C.S. Lewis. And
Powerful.
it's basically what you just said, Vince. You know, why do we have to go through that to learn? Because it's needed.
Well, and it also, I felt like, gave me an opportunity to not take myself so seriously. You know, our God obviously has an incredible sense of humor, you know, and it's a great tool when we allow it to be used the right way. And you know, that looking at ourselves from a different angle helps quite a bit. And we don't know until we do that, or the situation forces us to. And so, you know, here we are. It's all about growing and healing. And if you're going to get anywhere, you know, do your part. And I find, like, really on my side of things is to just, you know, be self-disciplined. You know, if I want to expect results, or I'm going to pray and ask for things, then be disciplined to stay the course of what it is you're seeking. And it's revealed to you, you know, not necessarily in the ways you think, but that's the whole part. You're on a treasure map hunt. Like, one of the things that I write when I journal every day is to act as if my prayers have already been answered, and seek what God is waiting for me today. So I'm going out in my day like I'm looking for God's treasure map. What's he have waiting for me that's just a gem? What miracle am I going to witness today? What's going to happen that's going to just make me think beyond where my level of thinking was before? And it's like, now the day has something every day's a present. It is a gift, because those things happen when you're aware and when you're conscious of them. When you're walking around into your own thing, or thinking you're going to go be rich, or whatever your intention was, you're all wrong. You just be focused on your creator, be grateful for you're alive, and watch how life rolls out for you.
Amen.
Amen.
Vince, is there anything that you would like for us to pray about for you?
I've switched roles. So I'm now healed, and my parents are 87 and 88. And my father has dementia, and my mom's got a touch of it, and I'm caregiving for them. And we can pray for God's grace in their lives and being gentle with them and letting them continue to learn in their walk and what they're experiencing. And that we all get to enjoy our time together while we still have it.
Absolutely. You mind if I pray for you now?
Fire away.
All right. Dear Lord, what a privilege to come before you, God, our loving Heavenly Father, our protector, our provider, our comforter, our strength, our healer, our friend, God, our counselor, our teacher. And Father, I thank you for this precious time together today, hearing about how Vince's life was changed through cancer, and coming into greater relationship, contact, fellowship with you, Lord, and for how his life has been blessed as a result of that. I pray that his story would reach everyone who you intended to reach, many, many people, God, who can relate to things that he went through and who will find hope in his story and the way that he presented it. I pray you continue to bless him, God, as he delights in you, that you give him the desires of his heart, and that you protect his health and keep him healthy, keep him on this path that he's on with his nutrition and his lifestyle and his trust in you. And I pray, Lord, as he's asked, that you would be with his parents, God, that you would be gentle with them and help them as they experience this dementia, Lord. And if it's possible to have the dementia go away, Lord, whether it's through their nutrition or their lifestyles, Lord, if they're open to it. And I pray that you give Vince the grace as well and patience to meet them where they are and understand where they're coming from and what they're dealing with, and that their time together would be sweet as he is caring for them and spending lots of time with them. I pray you bless their home, Lord. May your presence be known there, and may others see you in their home and in Vince's story and his podcast and each of his guests, Lord. And I thank you again so much for this wonderful time, and pray it won't be the last. In Jesus' name, I give thanks and pray. Amen.
Wow, you're really good at that.
It's the Spirit of God and grace of God. Thank you. Wow, guys, amazing time together today. Hope you guys can come back soon. And Vince, thank you again so much for offering your time to share with us today.
Let me put my stuff in the chat. I'll put my email and so forth in here.
Yeah, how can people reach you?
Yeah, I'm very excited about the podcast. It's been going very well. This is great doing this with Bailey here. Okay, that's my email. Now I have a link tree that shows my whole thing here. I'm getting into coaching. That's why I said I'll probably end up doing a course in my coaching for the podcast, teach people how to start one. Okay, so that one's my email, and then here's all my websites.
Your podcast is on lots of different platforms, I noticed.
I was on, that spot, or Buzzsprout. When I published on them, I did the premium publish, and I didn't. They roll it out to 17 different podcast channels.
Wow.
So then you can submit to iHeart Music, Amazon Music, and Pandora. So
Wow.
like you're on all the big channels as well as the other 17. So it's like if people listen to podcasts or they're familiar where to go to listen to a podcast, it's like you can find me.
Wow.
Yeah, you'll find me. No, but it was like it's kind of funny how just I don't know. It's just like everything's going my way. It's like I'm on the completely other side of life. Like before it was misfortunate, now it's fortunate. Before it was bad luck, now it's good luck. And I really feel most grateful for, it's like that's not my doing again. That's my God doing that. And so, I'm enjoying the ride like never before.
How frequent, how often do you have the podcast?
Right now we're posting one a week.
Okay.
So, and then, like I said, I'll mix some people in there, like entrepreneurs. I played sports. I was a coach's son. So the sports were a big deal to us growing up. So I got a lot of athletes on there. Like I get a couple of Steelers. I
Wow.
got that one announcer, Stan Savran, did the Penguins, Pirates, and Steelers. He's been very helpful. So, and then like Charlie Batch, he played football for the Steelers, but he's big in the local community with autism. And he has like a school where he teaches kids. So we're going to bring him in and interview him. Another one is played for the Steelers was Mel Blount. He has a house for little kids who are orphaned and stuff like that. So those are the stories along the sports that we've been finding more interesting.
That's so cool. Well, it sounds like a lot of fun too.
Yeah, it has been. I mean, today actually, I have one tonight at 7:30, and it's really sad story. Debbie found them, and it's a little girl, and I can't remember them. It's like LDMC. It's a disease it's irreparable. So like they're only live about 2 years after they're diagnosed, and it's generally in infants, 2 and 3 year olds, and they're passing away before they're 5. And the caregiver is her 11-year-old sister. And I'll be interviewing the 11-year-old little girl about her experience of her little sister before she got sick like this, and now what they're going through. And then I'll probably talk to the father. So it's going to be highly emotional interview.
Oh my gosh.
So
Wow.
her survival rate, I think the highest you hear, maybe 1% of them make it to 5 or 6 years of age. And she's 3, and she's been going for this for about 8 months now.
Wow.
So
That's crazy.
I feel like this is stuff that needs to be heard, because like you can't measure the pain that this father's going through, or the daughter at 11. So and nobody shares this. So this is we're being blessed to share this. The idea of being the person that gets to make it known is an incredible blessing for me. So we're gonna more than run with this. We're gonna step up, and we're gonna brag on people and their accomplishments of stepping up to life's challenges, and showing that the human spirit is not measurable. When we decide we're going to fight back, we're capable of things that are going to knock our socks off. So,
And God who empowers us to do it.
God in you is all that you need to be concerned with, and you just focus on that, and these most incredible, wonderful things begin to happen for you.
Vince, you were gracious in saying yes to sharing your medical records, but so you didn't have them handy. You reached out to your doctors, and
I have a set of records, and it comes through their service. And when I told them I wanted to access it, like I wanted to share the record, they asked what I was doing, and they were just like, I could do it, but they asked that I not do it. And I was like, I just thought it was better to let it go. I can see what they would be comfortable with me sharing versus not. I don't have a problem with it because I feel like this is part of my healing. This is part of my story. So, you know, people are in worse condition than myself or not as bad. You have something to measure by. And it was like, it sounded kind of weird, but in the beginning of going through this, I was looking for somebody who had a situation worse than mine. And I don't know why I was doing that, but my curiosity was, is if somebody healed who was worse than me, then I can definitely heal. But I think that I was seeking that example. So, you know, that medical record, I mean, that's, it's more, I mean, a 12-pound tumor, how big? That's like, babies aren't that big.
Wow.
So I mean, like when the guy showed me in the ultrasound what it was, I was like, I'm looking at this thing going, are you kidding me? And then I'm like, then it's like it internalized going, oh my God, that's in me. I'm like, I'm thinking, oh, I'm totally screwed. It's like, how am I getting, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. Like he should, it was a big white blob. It like, in my part of my liver was gone. It's like, and then it's like this, it looked like a snake going up my vena cava. And he's like, look, here's your heart. And then here's where the tumor is. And the tumor looked like a hand coming over the top of the heart. So that's why they were like, you know, your days are numbered. And so I'm like, only the grace of God could be to get through that. I mean, it was so overwhelming. I literally laughed. I was like, oh my God, it's like, I don't have a chance. But I wasn't scared either though. Like I really, the part of having no remorse, no regrets, all of this, like, you know, oh, you didn't do this. I had felt like I had given everything that I had in my life at that point. I didn't feel like, I felt like there was a lot more to go. And it was extremely sad that if I'm going to die, I'm going to die right now. I'm like, man, I feel like I got so much more to give. And so, but I was willing to accept my fate. So like, I wasn't trying to squirm out of it, I guess. It was like, I'm prepared to take whatever's going to happen. And so I don't know what could prepare you for a 12-hour operation when you wake up on the other side. I didn't really know what to expect there. And I felt like the Jetsons. I was so queer from the drugs, and I thought the walls were moving and everything was on wheels, and it was like the room was changing and I thought I was flying, and it was crazy. Like the first 2 days after the operation, I was really like way out there. Like I thought I was flying.
Wow. Yeah, I had my last surgery was 12 hours also, or almost 12 hours, maybe 11. And I hallucinated when I woke up from that one. It was not
Now
fun.
on yours, now would you'll have to watch Dr. Chamey episode because he was the lead person. Now what he does talk about is robotics. And then the reason for the amount of doctors is because they tire. And as they tire, they don't focus as well. Their handwork. He said, you know, it is a human managing the robot, but the robot doesn't tire and the robot is always precision. So he's like, there's ways that it's better. But I mean, if you had an operation for 12 hours, did you have the same doctor the whole time? My God, that's like a marathon.
Yeah. There were a couple of doctors. I mean, there's the preparation and then the, you know, when they're winding down as well. So not literally, you know, 12 hours start to finish. But if there's any records that you could share with us, that would be awesome. That like really just like hammers it home, the magnitude.
Yeah, because I got I have some x-rays, because when they set my chest back up from like my throat to the end of my sternum is all twist ties. Like I have 4 metal like ribbons like stacked across there to shut my rib cage. Wow. And then where I had the 102, it's like I'm a peace sign. So like
Wow.
off my rib cage, I'm cut to almost my hips.
Wow.
So I mean, they just basically opened me like a potato,
Wow.
and so that I actually can feel, which x-rayed, which looks like fish lines. And I got maybe they're about an inch on, like it looks like a knot, like it's tied in a knot, and then there's about a ½ inch in each direction. So I got about an inch of fish lines all the way across my whole belly. So there's
Wow.
like about 18 or 20 of those. Now, as I'm getting stronger and I'm doing more physical routine, I can feel those things now. But I don't know if they'd remove them but I mean, again, we were just trying to save my life. Like now I'm completely on the other side trying to like clean this up.
Right.
So, but I don't know. It's like, those are sometimes they were like, oh, well, those will dissolve. It's like, well, they haven't dissolved. It's 6 years later and they're showing up in an x-ray. So,
Wow.
but it's like, I marvel at how much the human body can take, like knowing what the cancer put my body through, knowing what the medication put my body through, and now to be as healthy as I currently am. I mean, these are really hard for me to kind of wrap my mind around, where you realize it's your God and he's alive in you and he's giving you life and life abundant. And it's like, this is how he works. This is how it goes down here. So, I mean, I just feel encouraged on so many fronts. It's just there's no reason to feel bad about anything. And so this side of life is just, it's incredibly precious to me now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think we just finished part 2 of the interview. Went longer than I was planning, but it's really, really great, all of it. And yeah, will resonate, I'm sure, for a long time to come. Yeah, thanks guys for such a powerful time together today. And Vince, I hope you'll join us again sometime soon.
Yeah, it'll be my pleasure.
Awesome.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you, Bailey.
Sure thing. Have a great
Nice
week,
meeting you,
everyone.
Marcel.
God bless
Okay.
you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.